Hi, this is Devin Crosby, and welcome to The Process, where we feature personal stories of overcoming. I hope this episode inspires you and encourages you to see the good in your life. Let's go. So Charlie, now hold on for a second, because I want you to kind of, let's say, unfold this a little bit or unpack it. Because, I mean, you and I go back, we're fraternity brothers. We're both from Pittsburgh. I know about Best of the Batch. I mean, I've been there at one of the original location. Tell me, why did you start the Best of the Batch? How did it, I know 21 years, but why did you start it?
So the reason why, so the foundation got started. So when I was at Eastern Michigan in 1996, that's when I received a phone call that my sister had been shot and killed during that time. And that was something that was life-changing for me. And at that point, I'm like, man, if I was ever in position to give back, I would. So focused all my time and energy to graduate in 1997, which quite frankly was the first in my family to do that. So I was excited about that. And then hopefully, turn my attention to being, catch the attention of one of those 32 teams in the NFL to see, hopefully being able to fulfill my dream. And was able to receive that phone call in 1998. I was drafted by the Lions in the second round. Immediately after that season, in January of 1999, ended up started the foundation at that time. And we did some one-off programs in Detroit. And then at that point, when I ended up coming to Pittsburgh in 2002, that's when we redirected the foundation goals here in Pittsburgh. And at that point was hoping, just to kind of, create some programming and, figure out how to grow the foundation at that point. So as we kind of grown, my years with the Steelers were here, went from 1 year to 2 years, and then ultimately 11 seasons with the Steelers. But our number of kids started to increase. It was 100 kids, then it was, 300 kids. And ultimately now here we serve 3,800 kids annually. And now we're in 8 different counties throughout Southwestern Pennsylvania. So as we wanted to, as these kids see the finished product, which is the professional football player, also understanding and navigating some of those roads that are the challenges on what it took to get there. So as we now created these educational components for the kids, we want you to live your dream, and hopefully you do become that professional football player. And if you don't, we still want to create the avenues and, depending on what career spaces that you may want to be in, we want to help you with navigating what that life plan looks like. So that was something and the reason why we started to do that. But in addition, when we're sitting in our building, we're busting out of the seams in our foundation headquarters. So we needed more space. And that's how we came into the equation of adding the 27,000 square feet to make sure that we keep the educational components that are there and also continue to grow as we now move into the next chapter in 20 years with our foundation.
Wow. So really, Charlie, the education of the whole person, the sports, the academics, being a better man.
Absolutely. And those are things that, when you sit back, you never know what's walking through that door that day, because everybody's interests are there. And right now, I mean, I'm sure college isn't for all kids. Right. They don't want to, some of them don't want to navigate down that road. But whatever that looks like for them, but at least have a plan, whatever that may look like. It could be 2-year plan, 3-year plan, 4-year plan, whatever that looks like for you. We just want to make sure that we're able to help you in the manner to be able to help you go out and fulfill and live your dreams.
What's a learning lesson, Charlie, that you have received just through sports? Because, I want to make sure the audience knows, you were, a high school all-star basketball player, which you had basketball opportunities in college. You decided to obviously, play collegiate football. You play, again, all these years in the NFL. What was the best advice, or give me first before the advice, what's the learning lesson you received from being in the NFL and playing professional sports?
Understanding the business, and because you understand why decisions are made. And that's something that I've always held tight, because as other players, not only as I was going through my experiences, but other players were actually, upset about what was going on. And I'm just like, okay, this is the business of the NFL. And you have to understand these things. Because quite frankly, we'll all be former a lot longer than we'll be active. So it's just a matter of understanding what you're doing in your current career, but also understanding what you want to do when you're done playing, because the NFL can create a platform for you that to make things a lot smoother to do throughout life.
That's for sure. Yeah, and you definitely capitalize that to the max, where not everyone does that.
No, and they don't. Everybody leave this game bitter. I mean, it doesn't. It's one of those things that it's not a perfect storm by no means. There's only a hand-selected few that will be able to go out and hoist that Lombardi Trophy with the Super Bowl trophy sitting on the stage. Jerome Bettis was able to do that. 99% of players, they don't have the luxury of doing that. So this is just what it is. So at some point, you become bitter that you're mad because you're like, man, this game, something's taken away from me. I want to play one more year. Well, they're not allowing you to do that, especially when all you know is playing a game. And in my case, I've been playing since I was 7 years old. So for 31 years, I played football. And then all of a sudden that's taken away from you. So I understood it. Doesn't mean I wasn't upset at trying to get to year 16, but there are other players who, like you mentioned earlier, that the average lifespan is just not there.
Right.
So the average, you just take it just from the laws of averages. There may be, you might be 25 years old playing 3 years in the league, and now all of a sudden you got to figure out what you want to do with your life. And people, it's a challenge that way. So you just have to, understand it, accept it, but also, time to move on with life and figure out what that looks like. But if you use it in a favorable manner, and use that NFL platform, it sets you up for the future and whatever that looks like for you.
So Charlie, let me back up just a little bit. You and I met in the summer of 1996. I remember because you were the first student I met on that campus. I was coming out of Jim Streeter's office as an intern at Eastern Michigan, intern after my junior year. And I didn't know about the tragedy of your sister. And you had a lot of strength. I don't think I learned that until maybe 2 or 3 years later. Is it fair to say that you were turning your pain into a purpose to help?
That was not initially, because as you're going through that grieving period, when something traumatic like that happens right away, you're just trying to occupy your time so you're not thinking about it. And that's essentially what I did from that February date, when we got back up on campus in March, all the way through the rest of the summer. So those were things that, I just tried to stay busy. So I didn't really think about it at that time. But my family was still going through that. So you're still talking about it to a certain degree, but I never tried to kind of mix that because I didn't want anybody on campus feeling sorry for me, knowing that ultimately I had to lead an organization, that football team and hopefully be ready for that season. Even though that was cut short, 2 games because I was hurt in the second game when I broke my ankle. But it was still one of those things that I knew men on that team needed me to be that leader.
Well, Charlie, you talk about being home. You were home for 10 years. That's a long time. I mean, I believe the average tenure in NFL is like 3.5 years, maybe 4. So you had 14 years in NFL, but 10 years back at
Absolutely.
home. Talk a little bit about those 10 years with the Steelers.
Yeah, it is a long time. It was 11 seasons. It was 10 years, 11 seasons.
Okay.
So it can kind of throw off a little bit, and at that time, going there, and it was one of those things to where, I get home and it was good and bad. The good part where I was home, I was around family. The bad part was everybody wanted tickets. You just couldn't accommodate that, right? You know how that is. I mean, the Steelers game is always crowded. So, and then when you go through 3 Super Bowls and you win 2 of them, of course, everybody wants to be a part of that. So when I left Detroit, that was an 80,000 seat stadium. So there were a lot of tickets available. But when I get to Pittsburgh, now the seating capacity is only 65,000. So when you tell people that you can't get ticket when they're accustomed to getting tickets in the manner that they were for 4 years, it gets frustrating and people get upset at you during that time. So it was a little bit challenging that way, but it still was, I wouldn't change it for the world because I had the opportunity to play for one of the most historic franchises in the NFL. That's something that, I wear with the badge of honor.
Good. That's good, Charlie. So last question I have for you in particular, the last particular question I have is, we're in the midst of this, world health crisis, and people are struggling. There's a lot of people struggling, from student athletes to the general society, whether you're young or you're old. I mean, I think this pandemic has touched every fiber of health, humanity, racial division, politics, everything you could possibly imagine. What advice would you give, Charlie, for people that are walking through these difficult days?
Yeah, and it's a lot of it. And, obviously everybody's affected differently, those type of things, no matter, you're talking about, Black Lives Matter protests, peaceful protests. or you're talking about just COVID and pandemic, those type of things. Everybody's going through different challenges, and until it impacts you personally, then you don't respect it, especially when it comes to COVID. So those are things that, you have to embrace it. We're all going through this at the same time, and like I mentioned, it impacts everybody differently. So I think you have to embrace that, but also, what are you doing to better yourself during these times? Yes, you have challenges, but what are you doing? You shouldn't be the same person this year than you were last year. We marked, coming up on our 1-year date. What did you do to mentally get yourself better from that perspective? And I think, we all have to do that. And then when we get out of it, execute that plan to become a better version of you. And those, what are you challenging yourself? How are you getting out of this for yourself? And those are things that, I look at, and, we challenge everybody, whether that's coming through our foundation or just talking to somebody individually, one-on-one, just trying to uplift their spirit. So we just try to continue to do that. And that's kind of where I'm at with it, and whatever I can help, by all means, people can actually reach out to me on all social media. I'm at Charlie Batch 16. And if you want to follow what we do through the foundation, you actually can go to batchfoundation.org.
Charlie, thank you for sharing that. So, Charlie, is there anything else that you want to add about the Best of the Batch Foundation? Anything that you maybe didn't get a chance to share that you want to share in this?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel at the Best of the Batch Foundation. We're trying to help people and try to help smooth over those hurdles. So if we can help in any manner, any capacity, it doesn't matter if you're sitting in Pittsburgh or you're down there in Florida where you're at. So we're just trying to help people and navigate it. And whatever we can do, we're going to do it, because what we're trying to do is continue to impact these kids one child at a time. And if we can help do that, by all means, we're going to embrace it and we're going to help you.
Thank you for watching The Process. Check out more episodes on LynnFightingKnights.com.